Sandhan. All Gujarat Integrated Classroom.
સેટેલાઇટના માધ્યમથી જોડતી કડી એટલે સંધાન.
Under Sandhan series of lecture on BICEF, today myself, Sanjay Mekwan and Jagdish Solanki going to discuss a famous novel Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. Before going to the text, it is imperative to know the biography of the author. A modern critic, Rona Bath, in his critical comment said that the author is dead, but actually he is never dead. He is always present through the characters and through the theme. By the front door, he says goodbye, but through the back door, he always welcomes the author. Daniel Defoe was born in 1660 in London and was originally christened as Daniel Foy, changing his name around the age of 35 to sound more aristocrat. Like his character Robinson Crusoe, Defoe was also a third child. His mother and father, James and Mary Foy, were dissenters as far as their religious faith is concerned. James was a middle-class wax and candle merchant. As a boy, Daniel witnessed two of the great disasters of the 17th century, a recurrence of the plague and the Great Fire of London in 1666. These two events might have shaped his fascination in writing the works. Defoe attended a respected school in Dorking, where he was an excellent student, but as a dissenter, he was forbidden to attend Oxford and Cambridge. He joined a dissenting institute called Morton's Academy and thought of becoming a dissenter or a clergyman. Though he abandoned this plan, his Protestant values endured throughout his life despite discrimination and persecution. In 1683, Defoe became a traveling hosiery salesman. Visiting Holland, France and Spain on business, Defoe developed a taste for travel that lasted throughout his life. His fiction also reflects this interest. His characters Moll Flanders and Robinson Crusoe both changed their lives by voyaging far from their native England. Defoe became successful as a merchant, establishing his headquarters in a high-class neighborhood of London. A year after starting off his business, he married an heiress named Mary Tuffley, who brought him the sizable fortune of £3,700 as dowry. A fervent critic of King James II, Defoe became affiliated with the supporters of the Duke of Monmouth, who led a rebellion against the king in 1685. With the rebellion failed, Defoe was forced out of England, and he spent 3 years in Europe writing tracts against the King James II. Later on, Defoe was able to return to England and to his business. Unfortunately, Defoe did not have the same financial success as previously, and by 1692 he was almost bankrupt. He accumulated a huge amount of £17,000 in debts, though eventually he paid off the major debt. Robinson Crusoe and many other works highlight the wild ups and downs and many reflections about the value of money. Around this time, Defoe began to write partly as a money-making adventure. One of his first creations was a poem written in 1701 with the title The True-Born Englishman, which became very popular. He also wrote political pamphlets. One of these, The Shortest Way with Dissenters, was a satire on persecutors of dissenters and sold well among the ruling Anglican elite until they realized that it was mocking their own practices. As a result, Defoe was publicly pilloried. His hands and wrists were locked in a wooden device in 1703 and jailed in Newgate prison. During this time, his business failed. Later on, he was released through the intervention of Robert Hurley, a Tory minister and a Speaker of Parliament. Defoe worked as a publicist, political journalist, and a pamphleteer for Hurley and other politicians. He easily changed his identity as a merchant, poet, journalist, and as a prisoner. This theme of changeable identity would never be expressed in the life of Robinson Crusoe, who also becomes merchant, slave, plantation owner, and even unofficial king. He was incredibly wide-ranging and productive writer. Defoe began writing fiction late in his life, around the age of 60. He published his first novel, Robinson Crusoe, in 1719. The life, adventure, and piracies of the famous Captain Singleton in 1720. The fortune and misfortune of Moll Flanders in 1722. A Journal of the Plague Year in 1722 and Roxana in 1724 are the famous works of Defoe. Robinson Crusoe is one of the classics of the English prose fiction. It has in fact the distinction of being the first English novel in the prose sense of the word. Although it is an adventure story of a shipwrecked man on a desert island, it is really a story with deeper meanings, by the virtue of which it makes a powerful impact on the mature intelligence too. At the same time, it suffers from a glaring deficiency, that is, there is no love interest in the novel. This book tells the story of a man who, contrary to his father's advice, leaves home and goes to the sea. After several adventures, Robinson Crusoe is cast away on an unknown island where he is doomed to lead a complete solitary life for several years. The suffering and hardship which Crusoe undergoes on the island are attributed by him to his original sin, which in his opinion consists in his having disobeyed his father's advice. Coleridge described Crusoe as the universal representative and therefore as a man from whom every reader could substitute himself in his imagination. Defoe claimed this novel was an allegory of his own time. Each one of us is alone in this world. Each one of us is condemned to solitariness. This condition is symbolized in the novel by the situation in which Crusoe spends almost 28 years of his life alone with himself and also with the God. This novel is then nothing but a dramatization of a universal experience. I think I can say that we all are Crusoes to some extent, because to be Crusoe is the fate of every human being. This novel of Defoe thus regarded as his masterpiece and a great work of art. It has sometimes been confirmed that Robinson Crusoe is an idealized portrait of the novelist Crusoe himself. With Robinson Crusoe's theme of solitary human existence, Defoe paved the way for the central modern theme of alienation and isolation. This great literary personality called Daniel Defoe finally exited this world on April 24th, 1731. Thank you. Now I hand over to Mr. Jagdish.
Thank you, friends. We are now familiar with the details of the biographical details of the author. But as I say that a literary text partially remains ununderstood unless and until you know the biographical details of the author. As earlier it is mentioned that Rolaba in his essay Death of the Author, published in 1968, has said that author dies, he declares the empirical death of the author. But let me tell you, author never dies. Author remains with the teacher, with the students, inside the text the moment we start discussing the text. So from one point of time when we take up this text, Robinson Crusoe, we find that it is a story of someone who is very venturesome, and that is Robinson Crusoe. It looks like a story of full of thrilling adventures. But it is just like Gulliver's Travel. It appeals to the beholders of 8 to 80 years. Children may be fascinated when they read Robinson Crusoe. At the same time, a man of 80 years may find it interesting to read because the details are provided in such way. This is the text, original text, and this is the critical version published by Norton. So from the cover page you can make out that someone is struggling, and that is the protagonist of the fiction, protagonist of the novel Robinson Crusoe. So at this point of time, it is imperative for us to know the entire plot, then we can focus on the technical aspect of the text. So in brief, I'll tell you something about the plot. Robinson Crusoe, as the third child of an Englishman, basically a German origin, he was asked by his father to take up his career in the field of advocate, but unfortunately he declines the advice of his father. He, right from the birth, his spirit was venturesome, so he wanted to explore the world on the sea, and as a result, of course, initially he takes up a job in the field of advocate. He becomes a lawyer because his father wanted him to live a safe life, but in course of time he could not resist himself, and then he once gets tempted and begins his journey on the sea. So Robinson Crusoe for the first time becomes the voyager on the wide sea. This is his first experience. His first trip on the sea was somewhat fortunate and somewhat unfortunate. He happens to encounter sea storm and many disaster, but anyhow he was saved and he returns to the shore. Second time, so during his first journey, he earns a bit of money, he makes a bit of fortune, and he hands over that fortune to one of his widow friends. But the focus of the text is on the journey undertaken by Crusoe for the second time. Second time when he begins his journey on the sea, this journey was very remarkable in the sense that Crusoe had to encounter a lot of troubles, and he faces a lot of problem on the sea. As we have seen that his father doesn't want him to go for the sea voyage, but he could not resist the temptation and he begins his journey. And unfortunately, what happens? His ship was attacked by a Moorish pirates, and he along with his companion were enslaved, and they were taken to the southern side of the Africa, and he was made a slave. So there his journey begins as a slave. So this is his first experience, and as a slave he had a very bad experience of the pirates, and on one fine morning he finds an opportunity to escape from their island, and he, with one of his friends, one of his boys, prepares a small boat and runs away with him and travels through the coast of Brazil. On the way he happens to meet a Portuguese captain. That Portuguese captain was very kind and noble, so he extended the helping hand and both the persons were saved. Crusoe at this moment sells away that boy as a slave to that Portuguese, and in reward that Portuguese takes him to Brazil. Here he comes as a man and he begins his journey as the plantation owner. He begins to cultivate the soil, especially he undertakes the cultivation of sugar. He possesses a bit of amount, some acre of land, and he starts making money. He starts earning wealth. This is how he begins his journey. But as it is mentioned in the text somewhere by Defoe, that the basic objective of the text is to earn slave labor, and Crusoe was interested in that, just to expand the political boundaries and the material wealth. He looks at human being as a slave. So once again he prepares a boat and begins his journey on the sea, but on the way he happens to encounter a big storm, a great storm, and shipwreck takes place. And hardly he saves himself and steps onto the island, which was completely foreign to him. This is his first step to land on that island. When he happens to land on that island, he finds that he is the only human being on that no man lands island. And then he finds that there is that there isn't any other person around him. He is the sole inhabitant of that island. And the basic conflict begins with the survival need. He has to provide with him food, water, and shelter. So man's struggle begins for the three primary needs on the island. In the beginning, he was very hungry, so he couldn't find anything on the sea. So he returns to the shipwreck 12 times to collect the raw material, whatever he gets in the form of bullets or gun or food or powder, he collects. But ultimately he will have to find out a way so that he can fulfill his appetite. So he finds